there, my name is Emma and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you some easy polymer clay gift ideas for the upcoming holiday season. I personally love making handmade gifts. I make pretty much my whole family handmade gifts every year, whether they like it or not. This video was actually filmed last year, but I was having issues uploading it and then the holidays passed. So we're back to a new year, new holiday season, but these ideas are still super, super adorable. And most of them were for my sister and she said she liked all of them. So the proof is in the pudding. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make 3 different gift ideas. First, a polymer clay couch / trinket dish where you can put rings or anything you want, and it's super adorable. And I made a miniature replica of my sister's couch and she loved it. And then I'll also be making some green olive place cards, and finally I'll be making some hair clips. But without further ado, let's get into the video. The first thing you have to do when making this miniature couch is source some polymer clay. I love Sculpey Primo, and it is way easier to get a color that is already similar to the couch then have to mix a color yourself, but you certainly can do that. You're going to warm it up between your hands, and then I made a really long piece and flattened it out to maybe 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little less than that. And I used a ruler to make sure the edges were nice and straight before I took out my sketch of my sister's couch and lined it up with that and cut it to the sides of the box that I'll be making the main box in the couch. So I cut 4 sides for that, and then I rolled out some more clay in order to make the bottom for it. If you're rolling out big sheets, you might want to be careful of bubbles, so I used a knife to pop and flatten any bubbles as I was rolling it out. And then I put the 4 sides on and cut out the bottom. And so now we kind of have a base for the trinket dish. Once I had everything cut up, I set it up again and pushed all of the pieces of clay together, making sure that they were going to bond properly once I bake them, because you want all of these pieces to stick together, ideally. And then you're going to roll out a really thick piece that's going to be the cushion, and it's going to sit on top of this box. And I just prepped this now because I was rolling stuff out and it was a little bit easier to do now, but you can also do it after you bake it. Then you're going to do more thick pieces for the back and the sides, all the same. You're just rolling it out based on the shape that you have and the couch that you have. And as I'm going, I'm making sure all of the pieces are smooth and attached together. So here I'm attaching the legs and the back and making sure everything is nice and smooth. Once I did that, I took some chalk pastels, specifically black because this couch is velvet, and I dusted it on before baking, and you can tell it is nice and baked and hard. And we want to do that before we bake the cushion so we can bake it on top of it. Polymer clay you can bake multiple times. So I'm going to make sure the cushion's edges are all nice and rounded like a couch cushion should be. And I didn't show it, but I also made 3 tiny pillows for the back. And that is the finished structure of the actual couch itself. And then I was prepared to make some pillows for my sister's couch. I'm not sure if these are the pillows she always permanently has, but based on a video that I had of hers, I made some squares for the pillows, and then I used this tool to make some wrinkles to make them look a little bit more realistic. And then I also added some wrinkles to the cushion and the backing as well, and I made an additional pillow. Hopefully these are some accurate pillows to her, I'm not positive. I then took some brown polymer clay and rolled it out. She has wooden legs for her couch, so I set those all up on some foil and I baked it again at 275 for 30 minutes with the cushion just directly on it. And it should, if you don't press it too hard, it should just pop right off when you take it out of the oven. And then I took some super glue and glued on all of the legs. Make sure you make enough for the back legs, not just the ones you can see, and made sure they were in the right spot. And that is it. We are done. You can now store trinkets, whatnot in there. I hope she sets it up next to her real couch and she can store matches or lighters in it, set it up next to a candle, but I think it turned out so, so adorable. I am so obsessed with how that couch turned out. It was similar to one that I saw on Pinterest that was like real ceramic, but I made mine out of polymer clay and it turned out so good. The next project is some green olive place card holders. You do not have to do green olives. You could do blueberries, little animals. You could make them abstract and just do shapes. You can do whatever you want, but I'm gonna show you the technique on how I made mine and how you can make your own place card holders. These are great for someone who hosts. You can put labels of food in there or people's names at their, table settings. It's such a great gift for a host, and here's how I made it. These green olive place card holders were so quick and easy. You're gonna start with polymer clay. This color is Sculpey Primo Spanish Olive. I'm just gonna break it down into small sections, warm those up between my hands, and smush them around until I'm ready to roll them into balls slash kind of like oblong circles. Next, you can take the end of a brush or a tool to shove into one end, and that's gonna create a little hole for your pimento. And then on the other end, you can use any tool you have to make an X on the other end, and then you can use some red polymer clay, fold it in half and shove it in the hole, and oh my gosh, you are almost done. I used an X-Acto knife to cut it down its long way, and then I made sure it actually worked with this business card. But to bake them, I wanted to make sure I had some thick cardstock to put in there to make sure it stayed open at the right size. So I cut up some scrap cardstock and shoved it in there before I was going to bake it to make sure that it stayed open, because polymer clay does tend to shrink. So you want to make sure there's something in there. And then I baked it at 275 for 30 minutes. Now, in order to make them shiny, I got some polyurethane and I put it on all of them. I did the tops first and then the bottoms afterwards. And then I also cut some place card holders to give with this gift, so they can visualize it immediately and they're immediately ready for a party. You can use these for people's names, or I was thinking like a charcuterie board if you want to label food or cheeses, or you can use them for whatever you want, or even, little photos. They can be little photo frames. This was so quick and easy. I highly recommend giving this as a gift. Those were so easy to make. I highly recommend giving them a try. And here's how I made the last project, which is hair clips. First thing I did was go to Michael's because they have a ton of different types of hair clips. I opted for these longer barrette style clips because I wanted to make more statement pieces, but I have done smaller clips from there before and they work fine. These are not the best quality clips in the world, but they work totally fine for this craft. Next, I got some Sculpey Primo polymer clay in white, and I rolled it out pretty thick, making sure that I popped any air bubbles. Next, I wanted this to be really cohesive, like all of the clips to look the same, so I actually made myself a template out of some scrap paper. I decided to go for a rectangular shape with some nice soft edges. I used the template to cut out the polymer clay, and I did this 4 or 5 times, I believe, because I wanted to make sure I had some extras just in case I messed up, which I did many times, as you will see in this video. I used my thumbs to stamp out the edges and make sure they were kind of softened. At this point, I didn't even know what designs I wanted to do, but I rolled out some foil to make a curve, and then I ended up putting another piece of foil on top of it to make sure that curve was really smooth, because the clips are going to be curved, so you want a slight curve. And I made sure that polymer clay is very flexible, so you can glue it and have it, see how it's flexing? Very nice. You can glue it if it's not completely perfect. It can be stuck to the clip, but you want to get the arch as similar as possible. Next, I grabbed some white gesso and I made sure I covered the whole thing. I just did the fronts of these because I'm giving these to my sister and I don't really care what she thinks, and I don't care if the back's ugly. So I just did the fronts. You want to make sure you do that so the polymer clay doesn't get sticky. And then I started painting them in a few different colors. I kind of chose a color scheme, which I did eventually abandon. But the first one, I was like, oh my gosh, I'll do better. I don't even need to sketch it out. But this was at the point where I realized oh, that is not centered and it can only fit butt. So we need to repaint over this whole thing. And that was the first time I messed up the butter one. There are many, many more mess ups in this video, as you will see. And here I am using a pen, which I don't recommend. It was way easier. Unless it's an acrylic paint marker, I don't recommend using a pen, and you will see why in a second. The next design that I wanted to do was an anchovy. I just like kind of associate like tinned fish with my sister. I don't eat seafood, but she is a big seafood lover and she lives in Seattle. So it just felt fitting. For the background of this one, I decided to be a little bit more experimental, and I did half of it in that red, and then I also used the yellowy butter color for the other half, and then I added some stripes, so who knows, hopefully she likes it. For this one, I decided to do more of a folk art type of flower situation. This is definitely the least like my sister out of all of these, but you know, maybe she'll like it, maybe she'll try it out. I saw a ribbon like this on my sister's Pinterest, so I tried it out and it was too Christmassy. So I ended up painting it black over, and this is no longer for my sister because I really liked using the gel pen, and I was like, oh, I could do a snake skeleton, which is way more my style. If she wants it, she can have it, but I don't envision her liking this. So I did a snake skeleton, but I think 3 is enough, and I think she'll be happy with that. Now, after I was done painting, I wanted these to be nice and shiny, so I was like, oh, I'll use UV resin. Now, these I think are alcohol ink markers that I used for the butter. It just started smearing all over the place, so I fixed that, redid the whole thing. I was like, oh, let me do some clear spray paint first. And I gooped it on there, messed it up again, and then like two more times I had to redo it. But anywho, it worked on all the other ones because they did not have alcohol ink pens on them, and I used an old brush to smear it out and make sure you're wearing gloves and using ventilation, and you can use like a heat gun to pop any bubbles that you have and make sure you cure them fully and for enough time. Ignore the backs, ew, disgusting. It's just for my sister, so I don't care. But I'm using super glue to glue the hair clips on, and you want to make sure you hold it. I held it for like 3 minutes to make sure it was like really on there and formed to the shape of the hair clip. I finally redid the butter one with acrylic paint this time. It was a lot harder, but it didn't get ruined, so that's good. I think they turned out super duper cute, and like I said, not the best actual clips in the world, but I would still be so happy to receive this just because they're cute, they're custom, you can be really thoughtful, you can do different shapes of them, you can get really creative with this project, and I think they all turned out so well. That butter hair clip gave me so much grief when I made it, but I'm glad I kept at it because it ended up being my sister's favorite hair clip. I love this project because it's so customizable. If someone has a special interest or maybe some favorite colors, you can totally make it for whatever you think they might like. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a ton of polymer clay gift ideas on this channel, as well as my Instagram and my TikTok. I'm actually doing a series of 12 polymer clay gift ideas for this year on my TikTok, and that series is almost done. So feel free to check those out. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and happy making.